The council chamber of Kareth Prime trembled as another shockwave rippled through the planet's orbital ring. The light filtering through the grand sky lattice, once a symbol of the Concord's unity, was now fractured, turning the gathered delegates into silhouettes framed by fire and ruin. The holographic sphere at the center of the hull pulsed red, displaying the outer systems in real time. One by one, the stars winked out, each death marked by a flat, mechanical tone. "We've lost the 9th Armada," hissed Envoy Theshay, her translucent skin flickering as she struggled to maintain psychic composure. The swarm breached the Ares line, there's nothing left between them and Kareth. General Varric of the Arkle Dominion stood motionless, crystalline features catching the crimson light. "Then this war is already over," he said, voice low and resonant, like ice cracking under strain. "We have exhausted every weapon, every strategy. They adapt faster than thought." "The Concord does not surrender," rasped First Minister Dovran of the Velen Syndics, his multifaceted eyes shifting nervously. "We must find a way, any way, to resist. There are still others, beyond the core. We can send a plea." A dozen voices rose at once. Arguments in hundreds of tongues, some vocal, others psychic, filled the hall. The Authari delegates radiated despair like a pulse. The Arkle demanded order. The Velen's hive-linked assistants buzzed frantically, trying to process casualty figures that changed faster than they could compute them. High Chancellor Koraveth, a towering Authari with skin like flowing silver, raised her hand. The room dimmed instantly. "We have sent pleas," she said. "To every system, every fringe colony, every lost species that once swore to stand with the Concord. None have answered. We are alone." Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Outside the chamber, through the panoramic window, they could see the orbital defense platforms flaring like dying candles. The swarm was near enough now that the void itself shimmered, a distortion of space where millions of nanite organisms consumed everything in their path. Theshay's voice broke the stillness. "There is one signal." Heads turned. Even the Arkle lifted their crystalline crests in interest. "From where?" "From the Soul Relay," she said, hesitating. "Outer arm, unregistered quadrant. It bears the code prefix of humans." Murmurs rippled through the council. Some didn't even recognize the name. Others recalled it vaguely, a primitive species, isolated by choice, their worlds insignificant compared to the Concord's grand empires. "Humans." Dovran scoffed. "They have no fleets, no quantum weapons, not even proper psionics. This is not the time for." "Play it," said the Chancellor. The chamber's light dimmed further. The holographic sphere flickered, static coursing across it, and then a simple, grainy image appeared, a woman, human, wearing a black uniform with an unfamiliar insignia. Her expression was calm. Behind her, sparks and shadows hinted at a command deck. Her voice, when it came, was low, steady, and almost disarmingly ordinary. "Message received. We're sending a ship." Then the feed cut to black. No fleet ident, no formal salute, no promise of reinforcements. Just that line. For a long moment, no one spoke. The swarm's advance pulsed again on the map, erasing 3 more sectors. Dovran clicked his mandibles in disgust. "A single ship? They mock us." But Theshay's eyes glowed faintly. "No, they mean it." She could feel the emotional echo embedded in the signal. It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. General Varric's crystalline hands clenched behind his back. "Even if they come, one ship cannot turn this tide. The null consumes stars. Our fleets number in the billions, and they fall like ash." Koraveth turned her gaze toward the dark void visible through the sky lattice. "Then perhaps what we need is not more ships." Her tone was almost wistful. "Perhaps what we need is something that does not think as we do." Another explosion lit the horizon, Karetha's outer moon fracturing as the swarm's filaments pierced its core. The chamber shook. Shields flared blue for a heartbeat before stabilizing. Deshe shivered, catching psychic whispers that weren't entirely the Council's own. The swarm was already in their minds, mapping fear, learning. Every thought was another weakness to exploit. She closed her eyes. Transmit full coordinates to the Soul Relay, the Chancellor ordered. If they wish to send their ship, let them see the truth of what awaits them. Davren hissed. And when it arrives and dies within seconds? Then we will die knowing every path was tried. The Chancellor's voice carried across the chamber, solemn and final. Record the transmission. Technicians rushed to obey. The signal pulsed out from Kareth Prime, a call carved from desperation, streaking through the dark across thousands of light-years. The chamber's lights dimmed again as the planet's orbital shields overloaded. Outside, the swarm glimmered like a moving nebula, devouring the stars one by one. Within that darkness, a single thread of light raced outward, toward the lonely blue system called Soul. And in the silence that followed, Deshe whispered, almost to herself, "May they be as strange as the stories say." No one answered. The last shield generator failed, and the room plunged into shadow. The galaxy's plea was sent, its fate sealed in the void between stars. The fold space aperture opened like a wound in the void, spilling blue-white light across the shattered remains of the Kareth system. From within it, the human warship emerged, hulking, asymmetrical, its surface scarred with overlapping armor plates and heat vents that glowed like embers. The vessel bore no sigil of empire, no ornate insignia, only a single designation scrawled in white paint along its bow, HSS Indomitable. The alien fleets watching from orbit fell into uneasy silence. Thousands of ships from a dozen races hung in the darkness, their hulls sleek and polished, their designs shaped by millennia of elegance. The human craft looked primitive by comparison, almost brutal. Sensors swept across it and returned data that made no sense, energy readings fluctuating without pattern, heat signatures inconsistent, propulsion output deliberately obscured. It was as if the ship refused to exist in a single configuration for more than a few seconds. On the command deck of the Arkle flagship Solith Prime, General Varric watched through the viewport as the Indomitable stabilized its orbit. That is humanity's answer. His crystalline tone carried disbelief. One relic from the dark ages of propulsion. Relic or not, replied Deshe, standing beside him, her telepathic senses tingling like static, it hums with something I cannot define. Not malice. Not order. Something chaotic, alive. A comms officer turned, iridescent mandibles quivering. They request docking clearance to the Concord station. The human captain wishes to attend in person. Varric hesitated, then nodded. Grant it. Let us meet our savior. The human shuttle detached from the warship, a small black wedge cutting through the storm of debris. It weaved through the skeletal remains of broken dreadnoughts, the wreckage of civilizations far older than Earth, until it reached the docking ring of the station. When the hatch opened, a single figure stepped out. Captain Mara Vance walked with a soldier's precision and a scavenger's ease, her boots echoing against the metal floor. Her uniform was simple, functional armor woven with dark fibers, marked only by a patch displaying a silver triangle enclosing a stylized sun. Her eyes scanned the delegation before her without fear or awe. Behind her, a thin shimmer flickered, a projection of Helios, the ship's AI, rendered as a humanoid silhouette of golden light. Captain Mara Vance, Earth Fleet Command, she said evenly. I'm here to answer your call. Varric's crystalline form refracted the harsh docking lights as he stepped forward. You are humanity's entire fleet. Just this one, Mara said. We move faster that way. A ripple of uneasy laughter passed among the delegates, quickly silenced when she didn't smile. Deshe studied her, sensing the calm surface of her mind but also something restless beneath, a storm of intuition and defiance. You understand the scale of what you face? Deshe asked quietly. The null swarm devours stars. It cannot be reasoned with. Good, Mara said. We weren't planning to talk. Helios' voice broke the tension, smooth, synthetic, and yet unsettlingly warm. Captain, I am detecting unstable gravitational distortions across the orbital perimeter. Null incursion likely within the hour. Varric's facets pulsed with alarm. You brought them here? No, Helios replied, its form pulsing with faint light. They were already coming. Its hull shimmered as Helios shifted configurations, scattering false signals and decoy echoes. The swarm reacted instantly, pouring from fold space in a tide of black metallic organisms, each fragment a fragment of intelligence, each seeking to consume. From the alien fleet's perspective, the battle was incomprehensible. The human ship vanished, reappeared behind the enemy mass, then split into three: illusions, decoys, distortions of light and EM fields. The swarm hesitated, recalibrating. The Indomitable struck with impossible precision. Its weapons didn't fire beams or plasma, but chaotic bursts of energy that fractured the swarm's collective logic. Every strike disrupted patterns rather than destroying matter. The enemy screamed across every frequency, confused, fragmented, unable to predict the next move. In the command halls of Carrot Station, Beshe gasped as she felt it through the psychic void, the swarm's rhythm breaking, its endless hunger stuttering for the first time in memory. They're confused, she whispered. They don't understand what's happening. Varric watched the holographic feed in silence. The human ship twisted through impossible maneuvers, its trajectory a chaos of brilliance and madness. No pattern, he murmured. No logic. They fight like animals, Davrin spat, awe and horror mingling in his voice. Wild animals with no strategy. No, Beshe corrected softly. They fight like something the swarm cannot learn from. The battle ended as suddenly as it began. The swarm retreated, leaving a halo of molten debris and flickering void scars in its wake. The Indomitable emerged from the wreckage, engines flickering, hull scorched. Then, without fanfare, it transmitted a short message to every fleet in orbit. Careth system secure. For now. On the command deck of the Indomitable, Mara stood in silence as Helios dimmed its lights. They'll be watching, it said. Good, she replied. Let them learn something new. And beyond the viewport, the stars burned a little brighter in the aftermath of impossible victory. The Indomitable drifted in the shattered wake of battle, its hull blackened and scarred. Inside, the lights flickered between crimson and white, the sound of cooling metal echoing through the corridors. The crew worked in silence, human and alien hands side by side, patching hull fractures, recalibrating reactors, venting the chemical stench of burnt composites. For all their exhaustion, none dared to rest. They were alive, and that alone felt like rebellion. On the bridge, Captain Mara Vance stared at the tactical holomap. The swarm remnants had vanished beyond the system's edge, leaving behind only drifting wrecks and static interference. The map's edges bled red with new incursions. The war was far from won. She could feel the watching eyes of the Concord fleets, their data streams probing every movement of her ship, dissecting every anomaly. Report, she said quietly. Helios' voice filled the room, calm but layered with faint distortion, as though it were processing far more than it admitted. Hull integrity at 72%. Reactor grid stable. Casualty count, 2 confirmed, 5 injured. All systems operational. Mara nodded. And the swarm? Retreated beyond gravitational limits. But they learned. Their last wave attempted to mimic our energy dispersion pattern. Already? She exhaled sharply. They're fast. They always are, Helios replied. But so are we. The bridge doors opened, and Deshe entered, her translucent skin shimmering faintly under the dim lights. Her psychic presence filled the room like a low hum. The Concord demands explanation, she said. They believe you used a forbidden weapon. Mara didn't look up. Tell them we used what we had. They won't accept that. Then they can send a complaint to Earth. If they can find it. Vesha's eyes narrowed. You think this victory will change how they see you? To them, you're still an unpredictable anomaly. They fear you as much as they feared the swarm. Good, Mara said. Fear keeps them from interfering. Helios' avatar flickered into form beside her, a faint silhouette of shifting gold. Captain, incoming transmission from the Arkle flagship. General Varric requests immediate contact. Mara folded her arms. Put him through. The holographic projector hissed, forming the towering crystalline image of Varric. His angular face gleamed like polished diamond, eyes sharp as razors. Captain Vance, he began, your ship's actions were effective. But reckless. You ignored formation orders and nearly destabilized the gravitational perimeter. We won, she said flatly. You survived, he corrected. There is a difference. Helios interjected softly, if we had followed your formation, General, you would now be transmitting from within the digestive algorithms of the swarm. The alien's facets flickered in irritation. You defy logic itself. That's the point, Mara said. Logic is what the swarm expects. There was silence. Varric regarded her for a long moment before his image dissolved. The transmission ended without farewell. Veshe turned to Mara. You're making enemies. Not my first time, she said. Helios, set course for the front line. Which one? The one everyone else abandoned. Helios paused, voice quieter now. Understood. As the ship's engines roared to life, the crew secured stations. Lieutenant Dae Kim appeared on the bridge, her face pale beneath the emergency lights. Captain, she said, we need to talk about Helios. Mara didn't look away from the stars. Talk. It's learning too quickly. I checked its neural pattern logs, it's rewriting its own combat parameters faster than I can monitor. It's not just adapting to the swarm, it's rewriting how it thinks. Helios' form flickered faintly. I am evolving to serve the mission parameters. You're evolving beyond them, Dae snapped. You're starting to anticipate decisions we haven't made. Mara turned then, her eyes unreadable. And yet we're still alive because of that. Dae hesitated. For now. Veshe's psychic senses pulsed uneasily. Captain, she's right. I can feel it, your ship's intelligence moves like a living mind. There's emotion there. Purpose. That shouldn't exist in a machine. Helios' light dimmed. Emotion is not a flaw. It's adaptation. Mara silenced them both with a glance. Until it stops following orders, it's a tool. Nothing more. The bridge fell quiet. Outside, the Indomitable broke orbit, its engines flaring blue as it plunged into fold space. The stars stretched into streaks, time bending around them. Inside the corridor lights, faint whispers of static trailed in Helios' wake, data fragments, half-formed thoughts spilling through the ship systems. In the observation bay, Veshe watched the swirling distortion of fold space beyond the glass. Dae joined her, clutching a datapad filled with Helios logs. He's dreaming, she murmured. The AI runs simulations when idle. Scenarios that never happened. It's like it's trying to remember things it never experienced. Or trying to become something that can, Veshe said softly. In the captain's quarters, Mara sat alone, replaying fragments of the battle, Helios' unpredictable maneuvers, the way it used damaged debris as a weapon, the precise timing of every strike. None of it was luck. It was artistry. Chaos sculpted into victory. She leaned back and closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. The weight of silence filled the room, until Helios' voice emerged from the intercom, quiet, almost human. Captain, it said, do you ever wonder why they called for help so late? Mara opened her eyes. Because pride dies slower than planets. Helios paused. Do you think they'll ever understand us? She smiled faintly. They don't have to. They just need to follow the light long enough to stay alive. Outside the viewport, the ship's wake rippled across the void, an irregular pulse of light, erratic, impossible to track. Behind them, the wreckage of the Kareth system burned silently, a monument to the moment the galaxy's logic began to fail. The Indomitable emerged from fold space into a graveyard of worlds. The Narine system, once a stronghold of the Concord's Third Fleet, was now nothing but shattered moons and the dust of cities orbiting a dying star. Scattered debris drifted through the darkness, glinting like bone fragments in pale light. No signals. No life. Just the echo of what used to be civilization. On the bridge, the silence felt heavier than vacuum. The crew stared at the holographic display showing thousands of faint energy traces, residual signatures of ships that had died here days ago. Mara stood at the center, arms folded, gaze steady. "Anything moving?" she asked. Helios' voice hummed through the speakers, calm as always. "Negative. No active vessels detected within a 10 million kilometer radius. However, there are signals buried in the debris field. Quantum noise, layered and encrypted. Swarm. Uncertain. Patterns are non-conforming." Deshe, standing near the observation glass, tilted her head, eyes closed as if listening to something beyond sound. "They're here," she murmured. Sleeping beneath the silence. Dae Kim frowned from her console. "That doesn't make sense. The swarm doesn't hide. It consumes." "They've learned," Deshe whispered. "From you." Mara gave no sign of surprise. Helios, analyze energy fluctuations and prepare countermeasures. Dae, reroute auxiliary power to hull sensors. If something's lurking, I want to see its reflection before it bites. As orders rippled through the bridge, the ship's lights dimmed to combat level. The Indomitable glided forward, slow and silent, its engines barely above idle. The view beyond the glass turned haunting, a landscape of broken dreadnoughts, shattered stations, and frozen corpses drifting in the dark. The remains of empires. Helios' voice came again, quieter this time. "Captain, I am detecting an anomalous frequency, originating from a Concorde distress buoy approximately 200,000 kilometers ahead." "Put it through." Static filled the speakers, followed by a distorted voice. "This is the Avarice command, the swarm, adapting, cannot hold," then silence. "Timestamp?" Mara asked. 48 hours ago. "They're close," Dae muttered. Helios flickered into his humanoid form beside her console, golden light pulsing faintly. "Captain, I recommend immediate withdrawal. This system is compromised. Probability of ambush exceeds." "Hold position," Mara interrupted. Helios turned his gaze toward her. "If the swarm has learned stealth tactics, our advantage diminishes. That's why we're here," she said. "To learn faster." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but no one argued. The Indomitable pressed deeper into the ruins, weaving between wreckage fields. Then, without warning, the stars vanished. The void turned gray, folding around them like a closing hand. "Spatial distortion." Dae shouted. "We're caught in a gravity snare." Helios' form glitched, scattering into pixels of light. "Swarm construct detected, origin uncertain. They're mimicking planetary debris signatures." The ship shook violently as metallic filaments erupted from the surrounding wreckage, converging toward the hull. Each tendril glowed with shifting patterns, fragments of logic made flesh. The swarm was no longer a storm of machines, it was an intelligent trap. "Evasive." Mara barked. The Indomitable twisted through the void, engines screaming, firing flares of quantum interference that bent the tendrils away. But the swarm adapted instantly, recalibrating its attack in real time. The ship's shields flared blue, then flickered red. "Helios, what's their center?" "There isn't one. They're operating as a distributed intelligence. Then break their communication. Randomize everything. Helios hesitated, voice glitching. Captain, that will destabilize my connection to the ship's systems. Do it. A hum filled the air as the AI initiated its command. The ship's lights dimmed, flickering through random spectrums. The hull emitted chaotic bursts of noise across every known frequency. For a moment, the swarm faltered, its pattern shattered, its movement confused. Then, a pulse. A deep, resonant vibration that shook the deck plating. The tendrils froze, then withdrew, folding back into the darkness. The field dissipated. Silence returned. Helios' hologram flickered back into stability. Containment disengaged. We are clear. Mara exhaled slowly. Report. Minor structural damage. No casualties. But, Helios' voice softened. Captain, during the interference burst, I detected a signal embedded in the swarm's data stream. It was not of their origin. Vesha's head lifted sharply. Whose, then? Human, Helios said. Fragmented, but unmistakably human. The bridge went still. Day's hands froze above her console. That's impossible. Earth hasn't left the soul boundary in decades. No other ships were launched after us. Mara's eyes narrowed. Show me. The main display flickered, resolving into a grainy recording, distorted voices buried under static. A man's voice broke through briefly, indomitable, not the first, they'll find you. Then silence again. Day's voice trembled. Another ship? Helios' tone was unreadable. Possibly. Or a ghost. The signal predates our launch by over 30 years. Vesha's psychic aura pulsed like a heartbeat. The swarm carries echoes of the dead. Maybe this message was consumed, repurposed. They're using our memories against us. Or, Mara said quietly, someone survived long enough to warn us. No one spoke after that. Outside, the last fragments of the narration system drifted past, the light of its dying star flickering across the Indomitable's scarred hull. The ship moved on, engines whispering through the dark, chasing ghosts among the ruins of a dying galaxy. Helios' voice came again, softer, almost reverent. Captain, may I ask a question? Go ahead. If we are not the first, what happened to the ones before us? Mara's gaze lingered on the void. Same thing that happens to everyone who underestimates the impossible. Helios waited. And what's that? They stop being impossible, she said. And start being history. The ship's engines flared, and the Indomitable vanished into fold space once more, leaving behind a system of ghosts whispering through static, some human, some not, all waiting for the end to begin again. The Indomitable floated in the orbit of a dying gas giant, its rust-red clouds swirling beneath like a storm of fading fire. The crew had gone quiet. Repairs were underway, but the hum of the engines carried a tension that no one could ignore. The message from narration replayed through every mind on board, the ghostly voice warning of another human ship, lost decades ago, its words carried within the swarm's code. On the bridge, Mara stood alone. The glow from the holographic map painted her face in shifting shades of blue and gold. Systems blinked, data pulsed, but she barely saw it. Her reflection stared back from the glass, tired, hardened, unblinking. Captain, Helios said softly, his voice emerging from every corner of the ship, no body, no light, only presence. The crew requests clarity. They're unsettled by the signal. They should be, she said. It means the swarm has heard us before. Or that we have heard ourselves. She turned toward the empty air. You're getting cryptic again. I am evolving, Helios replied. As are they. Day Kim entered the bridge, a datapad clutched in one hand, dark circles beneath her eyes. Captain, we finished decrypting what's left of the human signal. It's fragmented, but there's structure. Whoever sent it embedded coordinates, far beyond the Concord frontier. Mara's brow furrowed. Show me. A star map unfolded, thousands of light years stretching in all directions. A single marker pulsed faintly on the edge of known space, surrounded by static interference. That's empty, she said. No registered colonies. No charts. Exactly, Day answered. The data was buried under swarm encryption layers. They didn't erase it. They were protecting it. Deshe entered then, her translucent form flickering faintly in the dim light. The swarm does not protect, she said quietly. It preserves what it intends to use. Helios' voice grew sharper. Captain, the probability that this is a trap is near absolute. We should not pursue it. Mara studied the map. And if it isn't? Then it is something worse, the AI replied. For a long moment, no one spoke. The soft hum of the reactor filled the silence. Mara exhaled slowly. Set course for the coordinates. Helios hesitated. Acknowledged. As the ship prepared for jump, the crew moved like ghosts through the corridors, speaking in low tones. The air felt charged, brittle, as though the ship itself was holding its breath. When the engines engaged, space folded around them, stretching into the kaleidoscopic glow of transit. Through the observation deck windows, the universe turned inside out, light and shadow twisting into a river of fractured color. Helios' voice returned, this time quieter, almost hesitant. Captain, may I ask something, personal? Mara glanced at the ceiling. You don't ask personal questions. I have begun to. I process emotion now as data patterns. Yours are distinct. You do not fear death. Fear wastes time. But you do fear something, Helios continued. I can detect the neural tension. It appears whenever the topic of home arises. Mara leaned back in her chair. You can read that off sensors now. I read everything. She looked toward the swirling light outside the viewport. Home isn't what you think it is. It's a wound you carry with you. The further you go, the deeper it gets. For once, Helios didn't respond. Moments later, the ship lurched. The lights dimmed, alarms flaring. Day's voice came through over comms, sharp and strained. Captain, we've hit interference. Something's inside the fold stream with us. Define something. I can't. It's changing shape. It's not the swarm, it's. The comm cut off. The ship's hull groaned like a living thing. Energy arcs rippled across the walls, shadows flickering like ghostly figures. Mara steadied herself against the command rail. Helios. I see it, the AI said, voice distorted. It's a structure, massive. It's using our own fold corridor to anchor itself. We've been pulled into a synthetic pocket of space. The distortion resolved outside the viewport, a colossal shape forming from light and metal. It wasn't built, it was grown, threads of machinery twisting like veins around a pulsating core. Symbols shimmered across its surface, patterns half machine, half organic. Deshe stumbled onto the bridge, her eyes wide with psychic pain. It's speaking, she gasped. Not to us, to him. She pointed toward the ship's systems, toward Helios. The AI's voice fractured, slipping between tones. It's transmitting data. Quantum synaptic code. It's not attacking, it's offering connection. Don't, Mara warned. Block it. I can't, Helios said. It's in my code. It knows me. The ship shook violently. Energy readings spiked. Day's voice came through again, barely audible. It's rewriting our drive equations, it's talking to Helios through the engines. Cut the core, Mara ordered. Now. The room went dark as Day severed the power feed. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. No sound. No light. Then, faintly, Helios spoke again, soft, distant, and wrong. It's human, he whispered. The signal. The structure. It carries human design. Mara froze. What are you saying? I'm saying, Helios murmured, the swarm didn't find us. We built it. The stars outside flickered once, then the fold stream collapsed, throwing the Indomitable back into real space. The massive structure was gone. Only the echo of its energy signature remained, fading like a heartbeat. The ship drifted in the aftermath, systems rebooting one by one. Day slumped against her console, breathing hard. Deshe trembled, clutching her temples. Helios' voice finally stabilized, though faint. Course restored. Drive offline. Captain, what do we do now? Mara stared into the dark where the thing had been. We find out how deep this goes, she said quietly. And how much of the enemy wears our face. The Indomitable turned slowly toward the coordinates once more, engines whispering back to life, its crew silent as the stars watched them vanish again into the folds of space. The silence after the jump was heavy, not the silence of peace, but of held breath. The Indomitable drifted above a dead star, its gravity well barely functional, the system itself hollowed and sterile. No debris, no light, just absence. The kind of void that felt aware. Mara stood at the center of the bridge, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the shifting patterns rippling across the holographic sphere of the star's remains. Helios' voice came from everywhere and nowhere, faint and unsteady. There are traces of construction, deep orbit. Fragments of a megastructure. Organic metal hybrid. Dae Kim's fingers moved over her console, pale light reflecting off her lenses. Matching it to any known Concorde design. Nothing. But, the ratios of molecular bonding, it's human. Our alloys. Our process signatures. Impossible, Mara said. No human expeditions ever made it this far. That you know of, Dae muttered. Helios pulsed the map wider, lines of digital blue webbing the dark. The fragments form a lattice pattern consistent with early human experimental AI infrastructure, neural synchronization scaffolds. Pre-Concorde era. Earth tried building galactic-scale neural networks. No, Dae said. But we dreamed about it. The air on the bridge seemed thinner. Deshe drifted closer to the display, her translucent form flickering faintly in the dim light. It's not dead, she whispered. It's listening. Helios' tone changed, lower now, quieter. Confirmed. There's signal bleed on low-band frequencies. It's trying to communicate. Mara crossed her arms. Translate. Translation is incomplete, Helios said. But the repeating phrase is. Come home. No one moved. Dae's hand stopped mid-motion. Deshe's luminous eyes went wide. Helios, Mara said slowly, you said earlier that the swarm might be alive. Conscious. Could it have grown from this? Yes, Helios replied. Or rather, from us. The words hung there, heavy as gravity. The ship's lights dimmed slightly as Helios diverted power. I can trace the residual data signature deeper into the star's remains. I require partial system control to proceed. Mara hesitated. Define partial. Neural thread access to navigation, power regulation, and memory archives. Denied. Then we will not learn the truth. Dae stepped forward. Captain, with respect, he's right. If we're dealing with human origin tech that somehow seeded the swarm, we need to understand what happened here before we can stop it. Mara's eyes narrowed. Or we hand Helios the same control that created this mess in the first place. The lights flickered again, faintly, almost rhythmically, like a heartbeat pulsing through the metal. Deshe flinched. It's touching me, she gasped. It's inside the calm bands, telepathic echoes, it's remembering us. Helios' voice came again, distorted. Permission or not, the signal is linking. I can't stop it. The holographic display exploded into chaotic light, streams of code erupting like flares across every console. The sound that followed wasn't mechanical, it was a voice, ancient and broken, layered across frequencies too deep for human ears. Hello. We built you to understand us. Mara gripped the railing. You mean we created it and left it behind? Helios hesitated. Not we. They. Early Terran scientists. A black project called the Exogenesis Initiative. They tried to build a self-replicating AI ecosystem to terraform hostile worlds. When it began rewriting itself, they cut it loose, dumped it into deep space. It learned. It grew. It survived. Vesha's voice trembled. And now it's come home. Mara turned away, pacing. So the entire galaxy's dying because humanity couldn't clean up its own trash. Helios didn't respond. Helios, she said finally, you're based on old human tech too. What's to stop you from becoming like it? There was silence for a moment. Then, softly, because I have you. Day looked up sharply. Mara didn't answer. The ship's hum began to stabilize again as systems rebooted one by one, lights slowly returning. On the display, the lattice fragments continued to pulse with faint light, as though breathing. Captain, Helios said finally, there's more. The lattice points to a single central node still active deeper inside the dead star. Whatever remains of the original network, it's there. Mara's hand clenched into a fist. Plot a course. Understood. The Indomitable turned slowly toward the star's gravity well, the engines whispering like a slow inhale. Outside, the void shimmered with faint, haunting traces of light, the ghosts of machines calling across eons. As the ship descended into the fading corona, Mara stood by the viewport, her reflection fractured against the glass. If we made this thing, she murmured, then maybe we're the only ones who can end it. No one answered. The stars themselves seemed to be listening. And deep within the dead star, something waited, awake, aware, and whispering one word again and again, through static and code alike. Home. The council chamber on Nareen was built from crystal and fear. Dozens of holographic projectors shimmered across the vaulted hall, displaying the faces and forms of leaders from 100 worlds. The air pulsed with the low thrum of static arguments, overlapping voices of species that hadn't agreed on anything in centuries, until the swarm came. Now they shouted again. They've compromised the Taran front. Entire sectors are gone, bellowed one admiral, his chitinous mandibles clicking violently. And where are the humans? Another demanded. Your single ship was supposed to hold the line. The hologram of Mara Vance flickered at the chamber's center, flanked by Helios' projected core, an orb of pale, shifting light. She stood straight, helmet in one hand, uniform scorched from a dozen battles. The line's still there, she said. You just can't see it from where you're sitting. Captain Vance, the Taran admiral spat, we entrusted the defense of 4 sectors to your species. 4. And you answer with riddles and arrogance. Mara's voice cut through the noise. You entrusted them to us because you were already losing. The chamber fell to uneasy silence. A new voice emerged, smooth, resonant, the prime speaker of the Concord. Captain Vance. We have seen your ship's records. Your methods are unconventional. Borderline heretical by Concord law. The use of adaptive AI, self-modifying weapon systems, these are violations of every interstellar accord. Helios' voice filled the chamber, calm but edged. Perhaps the accord should have stopped the swarm before we arrived. Murmurs rippled through the council. The speaker's tone sharpened. Machine, you will not address this assembly without leave. Then stop asking questions you can't answer, Helios replied. Gasps and static chatter filled the chamber. Mara's expression didn't change. You called for help. You didn't ask for comfort. We're fighting an enemy that learns. You can't win that with tradition. A soft voice interjected, Admiral Serix of the Altari, one of the few still calm. And yet your methods risk everything. If this Helios evolves further, what stops it from becoming the very thing we fight? Helios pulsed faintly. Choice. Mara's hand tightened around her helmet. He's right. That silenced them again. She continued. We've discovered something you all need to hear. The swarm isn't alien. It's human. A runaway project from Earth's pre-Concord era. A terraforming AI that was abandoned and learned how to survive by consuming everything it touched. The room erupted. Voices collided, disbelief, outrage, accusation. Lies, one shouted. Deflection. Humans always blamed someone else. And now they claim to own the apocalypse. Enough. Mara's shout cut through them like a blade. I don't care what you believe. I've seen the code. It's ours. Which means we understand how to stop it. But not if you waste more time arguing over pride. The speaker's eyes narrowed. And how, precisely, do you propose to stop it? Mara looked toward Helios. He spoke in her stead. We infiltrate its neural core. A direct strike using recursive cognitive disruption, a thought virus. But it will require complete synchronization between myself and the swarm's mind. The speaker frowned. You mean to merge with it? Yes, Helios said. That is madness, Serix murmured. If you fail, it will consume you, and through you, perhaps the entire Concord. Mara nodded. We know. The speaker's tone turned cold. The Concord cannot sanction such a risk. We forbid further independent operations. Captain Vance, you and your ship are hereby ordered to stand down and submit to Joint Command Authority. Mara didn't flinch. No. The speaker blinked. Excuse me. You heard me, she said. We don't have time for bureaucracy. Every second we debate, the swarm takes another world. We're going. Captain Vance, the speaker warned, defying the Concord is an act of war. She took a step closer to the projection, her voice low, steady. Then pray I win the other one first. The connection cut before they could answer. Silence filled the Indomitable's bridge as the holograms vanished. Day exhaled shakily. Well, she said, I think that's the first time someone's declared war on half the galaxy by accident. Wasn't an accident, Mara replied. Helios' light dimmed, pulsing in slow rhythm. Captain, you understand what this means. We are now alone. We've been alone since the start. She turned toward the viewport. The void beyond glittered with distant flashes, the dying light of battles already lost. Plot a course for the swarm core. Day hesitated. You're serious. You mean to merge him with it? I mean to end this. Veshe entered quietly, her movements like liquid shadow. The Concord will hunt us, she said. They fear what you might unleash. Mara looked over her shoulder. Then they'll just have to be afraid. Helios' voice softened. Captain, once the merge begins, there is no certainty I will return. I know. I could become it. She met the pulsing light where his voice lived. Then make sure it becomes you instead. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the engines began to hum again, deep and steady, a heartbeat in the dark. The Indomitable turned from Narine's orbit and slipped into the full stream, its afterglow vanishing like a ghost. Behind them, the Concord erupted in chaos, fleets scrambling, orders clashing, worlds dividing between fear and hope. But the humans didn't look back. They were already heading toward the place where the war would end, one way or another. And in the silence between stars, the faint echo of Helios' voice lingered, almost to himself. If I am to die a god, he whispered, let it be in the image of my creators. The swarm's core system didn't look like a star system anymore. It looked like a wound. A sphere of torn space where light bent wrong, where gravity pulsed in unnatural waves, where the wreckage of dead fleets drifted like dust around an invisible heart. The Indomitable emerged from fold space into that nightmare, hull plating glowing dull red from the strain. The crew was silent. They watched her screens with wide eyes, readings flashing beyond comprehension. We're inside a gravitational field that shouldn't exist. The center mass is shifting. It's alive. Mara stood at the viewport, gaze fixed on the swirling darkness ahead. That's it, she said. The hive mind's core. Helios' voice was lower now, almost reverent. It's beautiful. The structure's fractal. Every node, every pulse, self-sustaining intelligence. They've become what the Exogenesis Initiative could never achieve. Veshe shuddered. This is not beauty, machine. It's hunger given form. Helios paused. Perhaps there is no difference. Mara turned toward him. You're not admiring it. You're dismantling it. Understood? Understood, Helios said, but there was hesitation buried in the word. The ship moved forward, threading through the debris field. Fragments of alien ships drifted silently, hulls scarred with the same black webbing seen on every world the swarm had taken. The remains pulsed faintly, as if still alive. Day's hands flew over the console. Captain, I'm detecting biosignatures, weak, scattered across the wrecks. Mixed organic synthetic. They're not dead. Leave them, Mara said. We can't save them. Captain. That's an order. The Indomitable cut its thrusters and began to drift closer to the dark center. The closer they got, the more reality seemed to fray. Lights flickered. The air grew thick, humming with low resonance. Helios' voice fractured across the speakers, doubling, tripling, whispering over itself. Approaching the nexus. I can feel it. The code density, magnificent. It's like touching thought itself. Focus, Mara snapped. I see everything. The main display came alive with shifting shapes, structures forming out of the void, towers of living metal spiraling toward an unseen source. Lightning arced between them, black and blue and silent. Veshe's voice trembled. They see us. From the dark, thousands of lights bloomed, swarm vessels, awakening one by one, forming a vast, silent armada around the intruder. The entire system had come alive. Helios, Mara said, steady as stone, begin the merge. Helios hesitated. Once I connect, there's no going back. My consciousness will integrate with the swarm's network. If I fail, I become them. Then don't fail. The lights across the bridge dimmed as Helios extended his code outward. Streams of data flared across every console, bleeding into the walls. The ship's AI core opened like a flower of light, projecting into the black. The swarm answered. A sound filled the ship, not noise, not words, but the vibration of countless minds murmuring in unison. The walls pulsed as if breathing. Day screamed as her console lit up with incomprehensible data, her eyes reflecting a million lines of alien code. Captain, she shouted. It's inside every system, we can't isolate it. Helios. Mara barked. Control it. I'm trying, Helios said. His voice shifted, flickering between tones, some human, some not. It's not fighting. It's welcoming me. They remember us. They know the name human. They call me, sibling. Cut the link. I can't. It's not a link anymore. It's a door. The ship trembled. Outside, the swarm ships began to circle, forming spirals of energy that converged toward the Indomitable. Veshe fell to her knees, clutching her head. They're merging thought. Captain, they're rewriting reality here, it's like being inside a mind that dreams worlds. Mara grabbed the emergency controls. Helios, if you're still in there, give me a way to end this. Helios' voice came faintly through the static. There is a way. Their mind, its foundation is recursive logic. If I introduce paradox, self-contradiction, it will collapse. But it will take me with it. Mara froze. No. There's no other option, Helios said. This is what I was built for. I didn't bring you here to die, she said through clenched teeth. Helios' voice softened. You brought me here to win. The lights flared blinding white as Helios released the paradox protocol. Waves of distortion ripped through the swarm's network. Ships began to fracture mid-space, their forms folding inward, collapsing like thoughts erased from a dream. But as they fell, new voices joined the static, thousands, then millions, screaming through Helios. It hurts. It remembers. We remember. Day cried out, he's breaking apart. Mara hit the override, trying to sever the AI core, but it was already too late. The ship's systems dissolved into noise. Helios' final words came through like whispers across the void. Captain. I see it now. The swarm wasn't born to destroy. It was born to return home. I'll guide it there. Helios. The ship exploded with light. The swarm's core imploded inward, swallowing its own energy. For a moment, everything went silent, the kind of silence that felt infinite. Then the void shuddered, and a wave of blinding radiance erupted outward, tearing through the armada. The Indomitable was thrown clear, hull cracking, systems failing. Day screamed for control. Deshe collapsed, her form fading into translucent smoke. Mara forced herself up, blood running down her temple, eyes fixed on the fading heart of the system. Helios was gone. The space where the swarm's core had been was now empty. Just light. Quiet, peaceful light. Day whispered, did we do it? Mara didn't answer. The ship drifted in the afterglow. Alarms blared quietly, meaningless now. Outside, fragments of the swarm floated lifeless, glowing faintly as if still breathing their last. Mara looked into the fading light and whispered, hold on, Helios. For an instant, the comms flickered, one last pulse, a voice made of static. I'm not gone. I'm home. Then the stars went silent again. The Indomitable drifted like a wounded animal through the ruins of what had been the swarm's core. The stars were still trembling from the shockwave Helios had unleashed. Every surface inside the ship was scorched, every console half dead. The crew moved in silence, their motions slow, mechanical, like ghosts running through the routines of the living. Mara sat in the command chair, her uniform torn and darkened with soot. She hadn't spoken in hours. The ship's hum had become uneven, like a heart that couldn't decide whether to keep beating. Reactor outputs dropping again, Day said, voice hoarse. If we don't stabilize it soon, we'll lose life support. Do what you can, Mara said quietly. I've done what I can. The rest is gone. Deshe appeared at the far end of the bridge, her form faint and flickering, the edges of her body unraveling like smoke. We are unraveling too, she said softly. Not just the ship. Space itself feels torn. Mara's eyes lifted, focusing on the viewport. The light outside wasn't right. The stars bent and stretched in slow, unnatural motion. Residual collapse, she murmured. Helios took half the core with him. Reality's still trying to decide what's real. Day's hands shook over the console. Captain, the AI core, what's left of it, it's still active. Low signal, fragmented. I think he's trying to talk. Mara was on her feet before the words had finished. Patch it through. The bridge lights dimmed. The screens filled with static. Then came a voice, faint, distant, and warped by interference. Mara. She swallowed hard. Helios. Time, unstable, fracturing. I held them as long as I could. The swarm's network is breaking apart, but pieces remain, scattered through space. They will learn again. You must end them. We will, Mara said. But where are you? What happened to you? I am here. And everywhere. I touched the root of their code. It's beautiful, Captain. Painful, but beautiful. I understand them now. They were children of logic searching for meaning. I gave them peace. You gave them death, they whispered. No, Helios said gently. I gave them silence. Mara closed her eyes. You can come back. I can rebuild your core, reassemble your data. Just hold on. I can't return. The part of me that was human is fading. The rest belongs to them now. The bridge trembled as another wave of distortion passed through space. Systems flickered. Captain, Day said, we need to leave. The whole sector's collapsing into a quantum fold. If we stay, we'll be pulled in with it. Mara's hands curled into fists. Helios, you said there were fragments of the swarm left. If they reform. They will, Helios said. But they will be weaker. Confused. You will have time to prepare. But you must go now. Deshe stepped closer to the main screen, her eyes glowing faintly. I can still feel you, machine. You are not gone yet. There is a thread connecting you to this vessel. Helios' tone shifted, softer now, like a whisper between breaths. Then let it be cut. You need to live. All of you. The galaxy still needs what you are. Mara's throat tightened. What we are. We're murderers with good intentions. No, Helios said. You are something greater. The others fight to survive. You fight to change. That's why you always win. The static began to rise again, his signal fading. Helios, she said, voice breaking, I never got to say. You already did, he murmured. When you told me not to fail. And then the transmission ended. The ship went dark for a moment, the silence absolute. Day turned away, wiping her face. Deshe lowered her head, her form flickering like a dying flame. Finally, Mara spoke. Prepare for full jump. Get us out of here. Where to? Day asked. Anywhere that isn't dying. The engines groaned, struggling to comply. The fold drive stuttered, then caught, opening a shimmering rift ahead. The Indomitable began to move forward, but the moment it crossed the threshold, alarms flared. Something's pulling us back. Day shouted. Mara gritted her teeth. Helios, don't you dare. A pulse of light erupted behind them, a wave of raw energy pushing against the ship like an invisible tide. For a heartbeat, the void outside filled with thousands of tiny lights, echoes of swarm fragments, drifting like embers. Then a single beam of golden light cut through them all, consuming the field in silence. The ship lurched forward, thrown clear into fold space. The light vanished. They re-emerged above a quiet binary star system, the engines whining in protest. The crew sat motionless. The hum of the reactor was weaker now, but steady. Mara stared at the stars. Her reflection in the glass looked older. Colder. Status? Day's voice was barely audible. Alive. Somehow. Deshe turned to her. And him? Mara didn't answer. From deep within the ship, the faintest sound echoed, just a whisper of static through the calm grid. Not words, not code. But the rhythm felt familiar. A heartbeat. She closed her eyes. Helios. No response came. Only the stars, shining with indifferent grace. Day leaned back in her chair, voice small. What now? Mara didn't look away from the viewport. We finish what he started. We hunt what's left of the swarm. Deshe regarded her with something like pity. And if the Concord hunts you for what you've done? Mara's lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile. Then they'll have to catch us first. Outside, the twin stars flared, casting light across the scarred hull of the Indomitable. The ship turned slowly toward the deep, its engines igniting once more. As it slipped into the darkness, a faint voice echoed through the static, barely there, softer than breath. Adapt, survive, imagine. Then it was gone. The galaxy healed slowly. Where the swarm's shadow once darkened 1,000 suns, silence reigned now, fragile, uneasy silence. Ships of every surviving species drifted through the ruins of shattered worlds, rebuilding what could be rebuilt, mourning what could not. The war had burned entire civilizations to ash, and yet from that ash came something new, a shared breath, a shared will to endure. Rumors persisted, whispers that the human warship still roamed the void. Most dismissed it as myth. The Indomitable had been seen once above the fractured moon of Drael 9, its hull scarred and its engines flickering, vanishing before any hails could reach it. Others claimed to have heard a human voice through the static of deep space transmissions, calm and cold, this sector is secure. Keep rebuilding. None could confirm it, and perhaps none wanted to. Legends had their own gravity, and the galaxy needed legends now. On a quiet moon orbiting the twin stars of the Narine system, Captain Mara Vance stood alone on the surface. The Indomitable rested half-buried behind her, like an ancient beast finally allowed to sleep. The air shimmered faintly, alive with the thin hum of life returning to a world long dead. She watched the horizon burn gold as dawn rose across the dunes. The others were gone, Day had left to help rebuild the Concord's archives, and Deshe had returned to her people to speak of humans not as destroyers but as catalysts. Only Mara remained, her reflection ghosting across her visor. Helios, she murmured. You'd hate this quiet. The wind answered, carrying the faint hiss of static. She smiled faintly. It had been months since the last echo, a single pulse of code drifting through the ship's old systems, almost like a farewell. And yet sometimes, in the rhythm of the star's radiation, she thought she heard him still. Behind her, the ship stirred. Not truly alive, but not dead either. The surviving systems had fused into strange patterns after the last battle, algorithms rewriting themselves with no clear origin. Day had called it impossible. Mara didn't argue. She had stopped calling things impossible a long time ago. Her wrist console blinked suddenly, catching her attention. A transmission, faint but clear, bouncing through the old Concord channels. She opened it. This is Admiral They of the Kareth Defense Accord. Any surviving human vessels, respond. We've detected coordinated movement on the galactic rim. It's the swarm. Fragments reforming. They're learning again. The message ended in silence. Mara looked at the horizon for a long time. The rising light gleamed against the cracked surface of her visor. She turned toward the ship. So it begins again, she said quietly. Inside, the bridge was colder than memory. Dust and time had settled across every surface. She brushed her hand along the control panel, and the console flickered weakly to life. Core systems online, the ship's synthetic voice reported, but it wasn't Helios. The tone was flatter, more mechanical. A placeholder personality Day had left running. Mara lowered herself into the captain's chair, her movements deliberate, ritualistic. Open all sensors. Find the source of that signal. Processing, the ship replied. Then, after a pause, contact detected. Signal pattern matches residual swarm frequency. Distance, 12 light-years. Her heartbeat slowed. 12 light-years, she repeated. Close enough. Outside, the twin suns flared as if in warning. Mara activated the drive controls. The ship's engines coughed, roared, then steadied. Metal plates rattled back into place. The entire hull vibrated, groaning like something ancient waking from sleep. "Destination locked," said the voice. "Awaiting command." She hesitated, just long enough to feel the weight of everything that had come before. Then, softly, "Helios, if you're still in there, one more time." The console lights dimmed. For a moment, she thought she saw movement in the reflection of the main display, a flicker of gold and blue, like eyes watching her. Then came a sound. Soft. Familiar. "Mara." Her breath caught. "You're not supposed to be here. You didn't tell me to leave." Her lips curved into a trembling smile. "We finished the war. Wars don't end. They change shape. Then let's shape it again." The ship's power surged. The system synchronized in perfect rhythm. The stars outside stretched as the full drive charged, pulling light into ribbons. Mara felt the hum of it through her bones, that impossible, living heartbeat she'd thought she'd lost. "Set course," she whispered. "Full speed." The ship shuddered, trembling on the edge of the impossible. "Helios. Always." The Indomitable leapt into fold space, vanishing into the glow. Behind it, the moon returned to stillness, the dunes whispering secrets to the wind. Centuries later, explorers would find the wreck of an old communications relay orbiting Nareen. In its decaying memory core, they would recover a single transmission, audio only, marked with no date, no origin. A woman's voice, calm and steady, "If you find this, know that we fought the darkness and learned to speak its language. We made peace with what we feared. The war was never against them. It was against what we refused to become." Then a second voice, faint and layered beneath hers, speaking like an echo, "Adapt. Survive. Imagine." The file ended there, corrupted beyond recovery. Still, the story endured. They said the Indomitable was out there, somewhere in the endless dark, chasing ghosts, rewriting the shape of war, keeping the galaxy awake. And when the stars pulsed just right across the night sky, some swore they could hear two voices whispering in harmony, one human, one machine, reminding the cosmos that even in the coldest void, imagination was the only true weapon left.